Hi you guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking to you about how Zachary and I budget for things, like for monthly expenses, and also how we split the bill, I guess. I've gotten quite a few questions over like the last year of how we basically deal with our finances and how we split things between the two of us, because we are living together and in a very long committed relationship, but we're not actually married. So we get a lot of questions about it, and I figured I would go ahead and give you guys all of the details. I'm going to be splitting this video up into two parts just to make it go a little bit smoothly. So first I'm going to talk about how we budget, what our budgeting looks like, and then the second part I'll talk about how we split the bills as a couple who's not married, who just bought a house together, because it can be a little bit complicated and I know that it's confusing, and I'll get into that later. But let's just start with how we budget. So Zachary and I are both very money conscious, I would say. I feel like we're both pretty financially intelligent. I grew up with parents who were very money smart. My mom has been an accountant for my whole life, and so I just feel like we were both brought up being very aware of our financial situations. So ever since when we first moved in together, we had set a budget. We had like an Excel spreadsheet that we created like the night before we moved in together. Because if you guys don't know, we found an apartment one weekend and we literally moved in like 4 days later, I think it was. Like, we moved super quick, and we kind of had already had an idea in our head of how much everything was going to cost, but we didn't really sit down and figure that out until like a day or two before we actually moved in. And so that wasn't very smart of us on that end, but it all worked out in the end. That's just kind of give you guys an insight of like how we look at things. We always try to stay very prepared. So anyways, let's just get into how we budget. So the first thing we always do is we actually like redo our budget every like 6 months or so, or anytime we have like a financial change or we move or something, we always update our budget. I know a lot of people will just make one budget and think that like that's what they stick with the rest of their lives, but you have to realize like your expenses are changing, your income might be changing, your weekly expenses might be changing. If you decide you found a new restaurant and you want to go there every single week, like that is going to make a change in your weekly or monthly budget. So we update our budget very often. We are actually about to redo our budget this week because, like I said in a couple of videos ago, Zachary just got a new job which came with a raise, and so now we can redo our budget a little bit and make some changes to that. So the first step to making a budget is figuring out what your monthly income is. If you want to do it like weekly, you can. We sort of do certain things weekly, like we figure out how much we spend a week on groceries and then we just multiply that by 4 to make it monthly. I think it's easiest to do it monthly because you pay your bills monthly. So the first thing we do is figure out our monthly income. We kind of just put that like on an Excel spreadsheet somewhere so we can see that grand total number, and that number we do is the two of us together. So whatever we make together is our total monthly income. And then the next thing we do is write down everything that we pay for every single week or every single month. So we know, like, obviously we buy groceries, we have a Netflix bill, we have our phone bills, we have car insurance, we have the mortgage, we have the gas, the utilities, like the trash and sewer, the electricity bill, we have our solar power bill, Apple Music. You want to put some money aside for like going out. Keep into account like if you're paying for school, or if you know you get coffee every morning, you want to account for that. Like, you really want to sit down and think about every single thing you spend money on per month. And like, there's even some things you don't spend money on every month, like for instance going to the vet for the dog. That probably happens 3, maybe 4 times a year, but we still do our best to divide that up. So say last year we spent an estimated let's just say $600 at the vet last year. You would just take that $600 and divide that up into 12, and then just use that amount as kind of an estimate for what you're going to spend at the vet every month. Even if you're not actually going every month, it's going to just keep your finances in order so you don't accidentally go blow that money on dinner one night or something. So you know you have that when you do have to take the dog to the vet, you'll be prepared for it. So once we figure out everything we pay for, we put the amounts in there. So like Netflix, $12 a month or whatever it is. The phone bill, $25 a month, like all of that. Put everything in there. As for groceries, kind of estimate it depending on what you think you'll spend or what you think you need to spend. When we first moved out, our budget for groceries was $125 a week, I think, and after playing around with it and figuring out how much we really spend. Now we set our budget for our groceries at $100 a week, but most of the time we're way under that, between like 60 and 80 a week. If we set our groceries at 100 per week, then for the month it would be 400 for the month. Obviously, it's going to be hard to stick to that depending on what you're purchasing. Like for instance, last week we hosted a dinner with our friends, and that night alone was $100 because we bought alcohol and all the food and everything was $100. So for this next week, we're being super conscious about how much money we spend on groceries, since we kind of blew the whole week in one night. So it just helps you stay on track of like how much you spent and how much you have left to spend. Just to keep you on track. I know for me, I'm really bad at spending money. Like I will be like, oh, it's only $100. Like I make that in this amount of time, but then you have to compare it against what your budget is for the month. And then you realize, yeah, it's only $100, but you only have $100 in this amount for that reason. So you can't just go spend it on nothing, if that makes sense. I hope I'm making sense. So, okay, back to the board. Once you figure out how much you spend a month on each thing, you want to add that all up and compare that to your monthly income. So say you make, just an estimated number here, say you make $2,000 a month, and you look at your monthly expenses and you're spending $1,500 a month in expenses. So then you basically have like $500 just left over for the month. And then you can kind of figure out where to allot that money, which is what we do. So like say you realize you forgot to put savings into your monthly expenses, that 500 would then go into your savings. My recommendation is make savings part of your monthly expenses, because then you're basically forcing yourself to save money, and that is so important. I think the stats are crazy, like 60 or 65, 70% or something of Americans don't save money. Like they just don't keep a savings account. And it's so important for emergencies, to save up to buy a house or buy a new car or just anything like that. It's definitely important. So what we do is we actually take, I think Zachary puts away 15% of his gross income a week into savings. It's just really important. So definitely put savings into your budget. It's very necessary. And then if you get to your bottom and you realize you're spending more than you make per month, obviously you have an issue and you want to adjust that. Obviously we don't have that problem. We usually have some leftover money every week that we just kind of throw into savings, or we hang on to it and say, hey, well, we have this much left over. We need to buy new lamps for the bedroom. Let's go ahead and do that because we have the extra money. That's kind of what we're doing with our extra money right now, since we did just buy the house and there's a lot of things we want to add and change and stuff. So that's kind of how we do it. And then, yeah, and it also helps if you leave room for your savings. Like say you're telling yourself you're gonna put away $400 a month into savings. So say that's your goal and something comes up and you have an emergency, and this week you have to buy new tires and you have to spend $200 up front for tires. That's okay, because you have that $200, or you have $400 you normally put into savings, but because you have to spend $200 on your tires, you're gonna put the $200 on your tires and you still have $200 left over to put into your savings. I think it's just really important. Definitely leave money for your savings. We are very, very, very strict about putting money into our savings. And I don't put money into my savings, but Zachary puts into his, and I'm going to explain that. This kind of gets into how we split the bills and payments and everything. Yeah, I guess just to backtrack really quick and talk about if your expenses are more than your income, there's obviously an issue. You want to really look at everything and say, I spend $50 a week on going out to eat for lunch at work. You want to obviously reevaluate that and say, well, maybe I can eat out twice a week and I can save that money by getting groceries instead, and then kind of balance out what you're paying versus what you're making, and just kind of balance that out. If you have like specific questions and like you actually want help with your budget, let me know. I actually really enjoy helping people work on their budget and stuff. I have a friend at work, and he was struggling with his expenses. He felt like he was spending more than he was making. So I had him write down all of his expenses, everything he pays for, and what his monthly income looks like. And I drew out basically like a little table for him, and I showed him, this is what you're spending, this is what you're making, this is how much you actually have left over. And he realized he was just throwing away all that extra left over on going out during the weekends. And so it's just helpful to see it laid out. So basically what I'm saying is, if you actually need help with your expenses, I will help you. Like if you want to just message me or whatever, you can always do that and I can help you, because think it's really important to have your finances under control, and I kind of enjoy doing it. So yeah, if you have more questions, specific questions, whatever, let me know. I know I kind of rambled and I didn't give like extreme details, but if you need extra help, just let me know. Also, I'm sorry if you can hear like the dog chewing on his toy or like the wind. It has been crazy windy here in Vegas since Sunday night, and today's Tuesday. It's been insane. I literally thought we were like in a tornado on Sunday night, but if you can hear that, I apologize. So I'm gonna move on into how we split the bills. This is definitely controversial. I'm just gonna nicely ask you to leave your opinion out of it if you have a negative view on it. This is just how we're doing things for now, and it can change in the future. It most likely will, but for now, this is what works for us. If you don't agree with it, that's okay. You can split your bills with your significant other however you want. This is just our situation, and a lot of people were curious, so I want to share it with you in case you do like the idea. It might work for you as well. So just to give you guys like a precursor, Zachary makes almost twice the amount of money that I do. Like literally, I'm so proud of him for that. It's crazy the amount of money that he makes at 21 years old, and I'm so freaking proud of him. I feel like I make kind of an average amount for a 22-year-old, so like that's cool or whatever, but just as a precursor, he makes basically double the amount as me, so just keep that in mind when we talk about these things. So we try to split everything 50-50. So say the gas bill comes out to $30. It would be $15 to Zachary and $15 to me, and we would just split that, and that's how we would pay for our bills. That goes the same for groceries. Basically every bill besides the things that are just us. So like for my car insurance, I pay that on my own. For my hospital bill, I pay that on my own. The phone bills we pay together. That kind of gives you an idea. If it's something that only has to do with me, I'll pay that on my own. And if it's something that has to do only with him, he'll pay that on his own. Like if he wants to go out and buy new shoes, obviously he's going to cover that for himself. And if I go out and I buy some new makeup, I'm going to cover that for myself. We're not going to split those expenses yet. These things will change when we're married, and I'll talk about that after I talk about how we're doing it now. We do split everything 50-50, but the way that it gets paid up front is different. So because Zachary makes so much more money than I do, he will pay the bill up front. So say we get the gas bill and it's $30, he will just go pay it and put it on his credit card. And then what he does is he has a spreadsheet in QuickBooks, I believe, where he puts gas bill was $30, he paid $15, and he'll put in there that I owe him $15 on my end. And then the way that I pay him back for everything is at the end of the week when I get paid on Friday, I pay whatever I have to pay personally. So if I have to pay my hospital bill, if I have to pay my car insurance, I'll pay that off. Whatever I have left over in my account, I will give to Zachary to make up for everything that I owed him for throughout the week. Now, because he makes so much more money than me, because our expenses are so high, I actually do not make enough money to completely fulfill my 50% of the expenses. So with that being said, the way that we've always done it is whenever I have money, I just give it to Zachary. I give him as much as I can just to fulfill my half, even though I've never been able to completely fulfill my half. Now, we're hoping that my YouTube will take off or Instagram will take off or something, and I will be able to fulfill my half and pay him back everything that I owe him. This probably sounds weird that he won't just like pay for it on his own, but I would feel guilty like, oh, you make more, you can pay more. Like, that's just not right to me. Like, yes, we're living together, but we're not actually married. So in my opinion, it doesn't really have to be our money together as one until we're married. I feel like because we are still separate entities living together, it is my responsibility to pay half and his responsibility to pay half. So right now I am in debt with him, if you want to use those words, because that is technically correct. So I am in debt with him right now, and I just pay him whatever I can. I'm hoping, just out of guilt in my heart, that I can pay him back everything I owe him before we get married, because once we do get married, I won't owe him anymore. Whatever I owe him will kind of just fall off, and we won't count that anymore. And then all of the expenses will just be ours in general. There won't be any 50-50 split. If I go buy shoes, it's going to come out of our joint bank account, you know? It's just all going to be our finances, our expenses. It's going to be one entity. I hope that makes sense. I hope I'm making sense. I don't know. If you have any questions, leave them down below. I feel like my brain was very scattered during this video, but I tried my best to explain the best that I could. So if you have questions, please leave them down below. I'll respond to any questions that you have or any concerns. Like I said, please don't be rude in the comments about the way that we split our finances. Like I said, this is what works best for us right now. It will change once we're married, And I don't care if you don't like it, because you can have your finances a completely different way. Nothing to do with me. Run how your finances however you want. You can always DM me on Instagram or Twitter. They always are down below if you need to contact me, or my business email is down there as well if you have like more specific in-depth questions and you want to have like a personal conversation. That's totally cool as well. So yeah, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. If you enjoyed it, leave a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. There's a little subscribe button down below this video. And if you do subscribe, make sure you click the little bell as well. That's gonna notify you every time I post a new video so you never miss a video. All right, you guys, thanks so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.